Well, hello. How are you? How are you? Are you okay? I'm okay. Better than I was yesterday. I think I had some type of a beginning flu, but now I think I'm better. Um, yeah. So I'm supposed to get a book, but I don't know when it's coming. Somebody made me a nice mask. Thing. A Mickey Mouse mask. See how nice? It's very big. It's see, Mickey Mouse mask. Oh God, I can hardly stretch it. But see, Mickey Mouse. I don't know if it breaks any patents, but it's pretty cool. It's a pretty nice mask. See, nice mask, all kinds of colors. Thank you for that mask. Maria Elena gave it to me. We're going to pray for John today, especially because he's a fireman and I did his wedding. I I officiated. I didn't do it. They're priests, as you know. All you Christians, Catholics are priests through baptism. You're priests, prophets, and royal persons. So when you get married, you married each other. I was just there as a witness. So I witnessed his wedding. And now somebody wants me to. Well, the reason why we're praying for John is because his name is John, and I'm not going to mention his last name. But Rita, his auntie, asked to pray for him. Hi, Wilma. How are you? Wilma is a wonderful lady who teaches catechism here in our parish, and she's tuning in. She'll probably tune out because she's too busy doing whatever she's doing. So, very good. I'm going to do something here. Maybe it works. Cannot bring her on. Okay. So, yeah, so welcome. We have a nice thing for today. It's reminiscent of our youth. Excuse me. Oops, I just had a big meal, and it's a beautiful poem. It's huge, but it's a neat poem, and it's about someone that we love, or we should love. And yeah, it's a beautiful poem. It's called "The Hound of Heaven" by Francis Thompson. Very beautiful poem about somebody that we should love. And then I have some funny stories for you. But remember, I asked you to write down some Maite. No, I sound like an Australian. He's saying Maite, a Maite story, right? And then like she sounds like her name sounds like uh, um, um, Canadian A. Yes, A. Canadian A. Yeah, it's Maite though. It's not Maite. Maite. It's Mighty Good. No, it's Maite, and she's with us too, and she's gonna ask questions. But nobody asks questions, and I ask you to ask questions, and some. Oh yeah, I'll write them down, and then they never ask them. Put them down right there, where it says chat, and put them over here, where it says if anybody's here on this side on YouTube over here, big YouTube. Um, yeah, you can put them here. I will write something there. I will say, please ask questions. I'm always asking for questions, but nobody wants to ask any questions. I'm going to put it again in capital letters. Questions. 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 So you have to ask questions. Does anybody have any questions that would like to ask about anything? Somebody, please ask questions. See, nobody's asking questions. Very sad, very sad. I'll put questions here. Questions. Okay, there we go. But I'm going to put please because if I don't put please, nobody will ask questions. See, I'm putting questions, please. And there's Desiree who's going to ask a question, I hope, about anything you ever wanted to know about or about, well, especially about your faith and religion and all that stuff. I'm sure you have questions, but you're not asking them, which is kind of sad because it'll help me do all kinds of stuff. So today we're praying for John, who's a fireman, and today he was asked to go to the fire down in L.A. So they have to go out into the front ranks of the fire, so of the group of the crew. So pray for them that they may come home safely and that they help to diminish all of the fires that are going on down there. And we have some up here, but not close to us. Although the smoke is coming from all over the place and it smells of burning wood and it's not healthy for us. So people are asked to stay inside. That's happening. And then we're having this pandemic thing that's even worse. But what's worse than a pandemic? Pope Francis tells us it's talking about people. It's you know talking in a bad way about people, murmuring. What's another good word for that? Does anybody want to give me a good word? Um, yeah, telling stories about people. Um, yeah, not good because it's destructive of people. It destroys people, and it's not a good thing. So, yeah, it says don't be talking about people in a bad way. Don't be calumniating people, like saying things that never existed, but saying them so that people won't like other people and things like that. Not good. Not good. There's a word for that, but I can't remember it right now. When you're telltaling things about or tale telling things about people, not good. Murmuring about them in a bad way. Forget the word. But yeah, isn't that something? He says it's worse, tale bearing and things like that, but bad things about people. Um, yeah, so don't do it. Don't talk about people in a bad way. Um, that's a nice thing. So anyway, we're praying for John that he doesn't get hurt by the fires. He's a fireman, and he's now at the place where there's a lot of fires going on. We're also praying for people that have cancer. We should forget about those people during this time of pandemic because it's just, and of course, we're praying for all those people that had a bad pandemic experience or bad COVID experience. One of them is one of our priests here. Now, for the first time, we've had a Salesian priest here that's sick. His name is Gustavo. Well, I can say his last name, Ramirez, although we're not supposed to say last names here. Keep people anonymous, but we're praying for him that he get well. They have a program here in San Francisco where you're sick and you live with a group. They take you to a hotel. They feed you. They keep you there for free. It's amazing. It's amazing. Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Governor Gavin. Oh dear. So here we are today on a nice day. Um, I'm going to read you a poem and then I'm going to tell stories that'll make you smile at least. Okay, the reason why I chose this is because it's a time that we'd like to know that somebody is really after us to help us out, not to give us a hard time. Uh, and so this is called the Hound of Heaven. You know what a hound is? It's a huge dog that has a great sense of smell, and they use these dogs to track down people. Well, they used them. Now they have helicopters and all kinds of stuff, infrared and then lasers and everything. So, but in those days, if somebody escaped from jail or they wanted to find a thief who was ran from one house to the next, they'd use these sniffing dogs, and all they had to do was sniff at some part of clothing that the guy left or a shoe or something, and they would actually go following the scent, and it could be miles away, but they'd find them. It's amazing dogs. Well, this is a hound of heaven. What does that mean? So now I'm going to read you this poem. And remember, it's written in old. Excuse me. I think it's an iambic pentameter. So those of you that know will find it. It will be visible for you right away. But it's a poem, remember. Um, it sometimes it rhymes, sometimes it doesn't. But it's tried to make it rhyme because it's a poem. And it's written in, of course, poetic language, so it's not, it doesn't follow the usual prose syntax. Okay, are you ready? Okay, I'm going to start reading now. It's a long poem, so just kick back and listen to it and figure out who he's talking about. I mean, whom he is talking about. There, I got it right. Okay, here we go. I fled him down the nights and down the days. I fled him down the arches of the years. I fled him down the labyrinthine ways of my own mind. And in the midst of tears, I hid from him, and under running laughter, up the staid hopes I sped, and shot precipitated adown titanic glooms of chasmed fears. From those strong feet that followed after, but with unhurrying chase and unperturbed pace, deliberate speed, majestic instancy, they beat, and the voice beat more instant than the feet. All things betray thee, who betrayest me? I pleaded, outlaw wise, by many a hearted casement, curtained red, trellised with intertwining charities. For though I knew his love, who followed, yet was I sore adread, lest leaving him I must have naught beside, lest having him I must have naught beside. But if one little casement parted wide, the gust of his approach would clash to it. Fear wists not to evade, as love wist to pursue. Across the margin of the world I fled, and troubled the gold gateways of the stars, smiting for shelter on their clanged bars, fretted to dulcet jars, and silvern shatter the pale ports o' the moon. I said to dawn, be sudden, to eve, be soon. With thy young skyey blossoms heap me over from this tremendous lover. Float thy vague veil about me, lest he see me. I tempted all his servitors, but to find my own betrayal in their constancy, in faith to him, their fickleness to me, their traitorous trueness, and their loyal deceit. To all swift things for swiftness did I sue, clung to the whistling mane of every wind, but whether they swept smoothly, fleet, the strong savannas of the blue, or whether thunder driven they changed his chariot toward a heaven, plashy with flying lightnings round the spurn of their feet. Fear was not to evade as love wished to pursue. Still with unhurrying chase, an unperturbed pace, deliberate speed, majestic instancy, came on the view of her, and a voice above their beat, not shelters thee, who wilt not shelter me. I sought no more than after which I strayed in face of man, but will within the little children's eyes seem something, something that replies, they at least are for me, surely for me. I turned me to them very wistfully, but just as their young eyes grew sudden fair, withdrawing answers there, their angel plucked them from me by the hair. Come then, ye older children, you other children, nature's share with me, said I, your delicate fellowship. Let me greet you lip to lip. Let me twine with you caresses, wantoning with Our Lady Mother's fragrant tresses, banqueting with her in her wind-walled palace, underneath her azure dyes, quaffing as your taintless way is from a chalice. Lucent weeping out of the dayspring, so it was done. I in their delicate fellowship was one. Through the bolt of nature's secrecies, I knew all the swift importings. On the wilful face of skies, I knew how the clouds arise, spurned of the wild sea snortings. All that's born or dies rose and drooped with, made them sharpers of mine own, made them shapers of mine own moods, and wailful or divine with them joyed and was bereaven. I was heavy with the even when she lit her glimmering tapers round the day's dead sanctities. I laughed in the morning's eyes. I triumphed and I saddened with all weather. Heaven and I wept together, and its sweet tears were salt with mortal mine. Against the red throb of its sunset heart, I laid my own to beat and share commingling heat, but not by that. By that was eased my human smart. In vain my tears were wet on heavenly's grey cheek. For we know not what each other says. These things, and I in sound I speak. Their sound is but their stir. They speak by silences. Nature, poor stepdame, cannot slake my drouth. Let her, if she would owe me, drop your blue bosom veil of sky, and show me the breasts of her tenderness. Never did any milk of hers once bless my thirsting mouth. Night and nigh and nigh, draws the chase with unperturbed peace, deliberate speed, majestic instancy, and past those noised feet, a voice comes yet more feet, yet not comes thee, not contempts thee, who contempt not me. A voice comes yet more fleet, lo, not contents thee, who contenteth not me. Naked shall my love's utilities yet rank, my harshness, my harness, piece by piece, thou hast hewn from me, and smitten me to my knee. I am defenseless, utterly. I slept, methinks, and woke, and slowly gazing found me stripped in sleep in the rash lusty head of my young powers. I shook the pillaring hours, and pull my life upon me, grim with smears. I stand amid the dust, O mounted years. My mangled youth lies dread beneath the heap. My days have crackled and gone up in smoke, have puffed and burst. The sun starts on a string. Yea, faileth now even dream. The dreamer and the lutenist, even the linked fantasies in whose blossomy twist I swung the earth, a trinket at my wrist, are yielding chords of all who weak account for earth with heavy griefs, so overplussed. Ah, is thy love indeed a weed, albeit an amaranthine weed, suffering no flowers except its own to mount? Ah, yes, designer finite. Ah, must thou clear the woods ere thou canst lime with it? My freshness spent its wavering shower i' the dust, and now my heart is as broken fount, wherein teardrops and tear drippings stagnate, split down ever from the dark thoughts that shiver, until the sinfulness, until the sinful branches of my mind, such as what is to be, the pulp so bitter, how shall the taste rind? And the puppy and the pulp so bitter, how shall taste the rind? I dimly guess that time in midst confounds, yet ever and anon a trumpet sounds. From the hid battlements of eternity, those shaken mists of space unsettled, then round the half glimpsed turrets slowly wash again, but not ere him who summoneth I first have seen, and wound with glooming robes purpureal, cypress crowned. His name I know, and what his trumpet saith, whether man's heart of love or life it be which yield thee harvest, must thy harvest fields be dunged with rotten death. Now of that long pursuit comes on at hand the brute. That voice is round me like a bursting sea, and is thy earth so marred, shattered and shard and shard? Lo, all things fly thee, for thou fliest me. Strange, piteous, futile thing. Wherefore should any set thee love apart? Seeing none but I makes much of naught, he said, and love, human love, needs the human scenting. How hast thou merited of all man's clotted clay the dingiest clot? Alack, thou knowest not how little worth of any love thou art. Have mercy on me, have mercy, save me, save me. All which I took from thee, I did but take, not for thy harms, but just that thou might seek it in my arms, all which thy child's mistake fancies is lost. I have stored for thee at home. Rise, clasp my hand and come. Halts by me that footfall. Is there gloom after all? Shade of his hand outstretched caressingly. Ah, forest, blindest, weakest, I am he whom thou seekest. In thy danger, last with me. Amazing. So let's read the last part. Fancies are lost, I have stored for thee at home. Rice claps my hand and come. Halts by me that footfall. Is my gloom, after all? Shade of his hand outstretched caressingly. Ah, fondest, blindest, weakest, I am he whom thou seekest. Thou dravest love from thee who dravest me. So who was it about? It was about God. He's the hound of heaven. He's always after us. That whole poem was just God after us, seeking to love us and have us love him. And remember, salvation is from God. We don't have to do anything to receive salvation from God, so to say, because it's free. But now what we have to do is we have to obey his commands and try to live a good life and try to be the kindest to all and to love. And love is not all the little things that we think it is sometimes. We think it's mushy and emotional and we just have to be after the person totally all the time that we love that person. Uh, that's not really love. Those are effects of our loving, but it's not really love. Love, as far as Jesus is concerned, is wishing the best for everybody, whether they're our enemies or friends. Um, Asking God to give them the best He has to offer to each person that we can think of. It's amazing what love is, and it's very satisfying. And no matter if we're like totally, emotionally happy or not, we are loving persons, and that's what makes us uh, uh, good human beings, first of all, and then good Christians, because as we keep on saying, the love of God builds on the love of God, who's in another totally um, world, so to say, transcends this material world and also our spiritual world. There's a spirit beyond anything we can imagine, you know, and but yet he wants us to love, to take, really consider the other person almost more important than ourselves, and to serve the other person, and to serve the globe, serve the world in the best way that we can. And that just means loving. And when we love, we can do anything we want. That's what St. Augustine said, anything we want. That is good, of course, because that's true love, doing the good. And as I said before, St. Francis, well, he is, we're all saints. Our Pope said, stop mumbling, stop telling bad stories about people, stop, stop, stop. Because he says it's worse than the pandemic. Can you imagine that? You know, talking badly about people, making up stories about people, destroying their name, etc., etc. Not good. So we follow that advice, I hope. Well, I have some nice stories for you today. I hope you like them. They're to keep you hopefully happy. And some of them you've heard already, I'm absolutely sure. But some of them you might not have heard. Let me put these away. There we go. Okay. Okay, so funny stories. Um, let's see. I think I have some funny. Okay, here's a good one. Okay, this is called The Speeding Motorist. Okay, so late one night, there's this guy speeding down this empty road, and a cop sees him go by, flying so fast that he says, I'm gonna have to chase this guy. So he chases him and pulls him over, and then the car goes up to the side of the man, and the man rolls down the window and says, and so the cop asks him, are you aware of how fast you were going? And the man casually replies, uh, I, yeah, he says, I am. I'm trying to escape a robbery, he says, that I got involved in. And the cop looks at him disbelievingly and asks him, were you the one being robbed, sir? And he goes, oh no, I was the one who committed the robbery. I was escaping. And so the cop is shocked, but he's also surprised that the man has admitted it so freely. And he says, so you're telling me you were speeding and you committed a robbery? And he says, oh, yes. And I have all the loot in the back in the trunk to prove it. So now the cop is starting to get angry and says, sir, I'm afraid you have to come with me. So he reaches in the window and tries to take the keys out of the ignition. The man shouts, don't do that. I'm afraid that you'll find a gun in my compartment if you do that. At this point, the cop pulls his hand out of the window and says, wait here, as he returns to his car and calls for backup. Soon there are cars and cops and helicopters all over the place, everywhere you can look, and the man quickly is dragged out of the car, handcuffs, and taken toward the cop car. And however, just before they put him in the car and take him away, a cop walks up to him and says, well, pointed at the other cop that pulled him over, sir, this officer tells us that you committed a robbery, had stolen loot in the trunk of your car, and had located a loaded gun in your glove compartment. However, we didn't find any of these things in your car. And the man says, yeah, and I bet that liar said I was speeding too. Did you like that one? I think I like that story. If you liked it, you can put little stars and stuff, little circles and little hearts right here if you liked it. Kinda, maybe. Okay. So anyway, that's one story, and I think I have another one, which is nice too. Let me see if I can find it. Yeah, those are funny stories. I think anyway. Let me see if I can find that other story. Do I have that? No. No. Hmm. I wonder why I have a story. I made sure I collected them. And let me see. No, that's not it. That's funny. Okay, the driving test. No, that's not it. No, that's not it. No, that's not it. Okay. Let me see. That's strange. Okay, well, then I'll tell you about this one. Walter took his wife, Ethel, to the state fair every year. And every time he would say to her, Ethel, you know what I'd like to do? I'd like to go for a ride in that helicopter. But Ethel would always reply, I know that, Walter, but that helicopter ride is $50, and $50 is $50. So finally they went to the fair, and Walter said to Ethel, Ethel, you know I'm 87 years old now. If I don't ride that helicopter this year, I may never get another chance. Once again, Ethel replied, Walter, you know that helicopter is $50, and $50 is $50. So this time the helicopter pilot was overheard. He overheard the couple's conversation and said, listen, folks, I'll make a deal with you. I'll take both of you on a ride. If you can both stay quiet for the entire ride and not say a word, I won't charge you. Excuse me. But if you say just one word, it's $50. So Walter and Ethel agreed, and they went into the helicopter, and the pilot performed all kinds of fancy moves and tricks, but not a word was said by either Walter or Ethel. The pilot did his death defying tricks over and over again, but still there wasn't so much as a peep from any of them. When they finally landed, the pilot turned to Walter and said, wow, I've got to hand it to you. I did everything I could to get you to scream and shout, but you didn't. I'm really impressed. And Walter replied, well, to be honest, I almost said something when Ethel fell out. But $50 is $50. Well, that was a nice story, I guess. Hope you liked it. So anyway, let me see. Let me see about another one. I think that's some of them are kind of quickie, so I didn't really like. Here's another one. This is more religious. Okay. There's a teenage boy and he just passed his driver's test and asked his dad if he could start using the family car. So the dad said he'd make a deal with his son. Says, you bring your grades up from a C to a B average, study your Bible a little, and get your hair cut. Then we'll talk about the car. So the boy thought about it for a moment. He decided he'll settle for the offer, and they agreed to it. About 6 weeks later, the dad says, son, you brought up your grades, and I observed that you've been studying your Bible, but I'm disappointed that you haven't gotten a haircut. So the boy said, Dad, I've been thinking about that, and I've noticed in my studies of the Bible that Samson had long hair, John the Baptist had long hair, Moses had long hair, and there's even strong evidence that Jesus had long hair. And his dad replied, did you also notice that they all walked everywhere they went? Well, anyway, that's another story. I don't know if you like that one. That was kind of weird. Okay, I think that's it. There's another one, but it's kind of crude. I don't like crude jokes. I have to read all of them to make sure that, they're okay. I I I like this one. This is my favorite joke. I repeated it at mass uh, this Sunday, but I don't know if you've heard it. A couple were going on vacation together, but the wife had an emergency at work, so they agreed that the husband would go as planned, and his wife would meet him at the hotel the next day. So when the husband got to his hotel and checked in, he thought he would send his wife a quick email letting her know he'd got there okay. As he typed in her email address, he made a typo, and his email was sent to an elderly preacher's wife instead. It just so happened that her husband had sadly died just the day before. When the grieving old preacher's wife checked her emails, she read the one from the holiday maker, and she let out an awful loud, piercing scream, and she fainted on the floor. At the sound of her falling, her family rushed into the room, then tended to her and tried with her. Um, Let me see. Let me see. Where's the last part of that? Okay, so then the family went in there and they tended to her first, and then they went to read uh, uh, the computer and saw the email on her screen, and it said, "Dearest wife, just checked into my room. Everything is prepared for your arrival tomorrow. P.S. It sure is hot down here." That's one of my favorite stories. I like that one. Did you like that one? Still nobody's sending little hearts and little bubbles and little things that you're always sending me otherwise that you like these stories. I guess you didn't like them. That makes me sad. And you still haven't asked questions. Somebody said that they were going to write down questions for today, and then they didn't show up. Thanks a lot. And Mark, you didn't even ask questions. Neither did Mojarron or Tony Rios or nobody or Marty Cuda. No questions. I'm sad. But anyway, that's life. Tomorrow's another day. So I'm going to leave you now. There was somebody who needed food, and I'm supposed to take it over to their house. Right now, things are pretty bad. So on weekends now, I go and deliver food to different people around the city, sometimes pretty far off, but they're parishioners of our parish and they have kids and sometimes they don't have enough food to eat, believe it or not. Things are getting pretty bad. Hopefully this thing will be over. Praying and that they get a cure for this, or at least something that'll prevent its spread. So pray for John, and I'll give you a blessing. May Almighty God bless you and keep you safe. The Virgin Mary cover you with her mantle of protection and love. And I bless you in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Don't forget to say prayers. Some prayers today, okay? Have a nice day and goodbye. Bye bye.